Welcome to Positive Talk Daily. My name is Mr. Positive. Should you go from buying a, inexpensive prepaid smartphone or go with something like the latest iPhone 16 like right here? A lot of people like these types of phones because it comes with, awesome cameras and stuff like that. Or should you go with an inexpensive budget smartphone? Today on Positive Talk Daily, we're going to show you why inexpensive smartphones have come a long ways, and you may be wasting your money on buying something like, say, an iPhone 16 or even a Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. Samsung's latest S25 smartphone is a beast of a smartphone, but is it really worth paying, $1,000 every year for a brand new smartphone? Well, things have changed. Or the latest iPhone 16. Now, these iPhone 16s are pretty nice devices as well, with the latest chipset from Apple and, those super cameras like I showed you the phone I was holding. That's an iPhone 16 right there. Are these phones really worth purchasing in... Now, don't get me wrong, who doesn't want the latest and greatest from, say, Samsung or Apple or Google with the Pixel line of devices? But there are plenty of budget options out there that I've shown you. I know these phones are awesome. They're amazing. They have great cameras. This one has, one of the best cameras I've seen on a device, the iPhone 16. But you can get really decent cameras from manufacturers like Motorola. Even HMD have come out with decent budget level smartphones that could also be considered mid-range devices as well. I'm going to go over a few of these phones today and which one may be the best option for you. Maybe you're just someone out there who's coming from, say, something like this, just your random clamshell smartphone or clamshell basic phone, to something that's more expensive and has better tech. Looking online, you can see some really good deals here on Motorola smartphones on Google Shopping. You can get a Moto G 64 gigabyte 2025 edition for $39. And there's just tons of good deals that can be had by shopping on the prepaid market, even on eBay. Now, there are companies out there that are giving us long-lasting battery life. There are companies out there that are giving us, decent cameras. It may not be the level of Samsung or Google or even Apple, but they're decent cameras. A lot of the Motorola devices have a good camera. The cameras on most Motorola smartphones right now are going to be anywhere from, most of them are going to be anywhere from, say, a 50 megapixel camera to as low as a 13 megapixel camera. Some of them 16 megapixel cameras. And most of them are going to have decent chipsets, fast refresh rates, anywhere from 90 hertz refresh rates all the way up to 120 hertz. We've even seen 140 hertz refresh rates on phones like the Motorola Moto Edge 2024 from last year, which is still a really solid phone. And, a lot of these phones aren't really super expensive devices. Some of the phones are coming out with Gorilla Glass 5. A lot of them are coming out with 5G modems inside them. Some of them have mid-range chipsets. I just reviewed a phone called the HMD Vive, which has a Snapdragon 680 chipset and 4 gigabytes of RAM. And you can turn on 3 gigabytes of virtual RAM. A lot of these phones are now coming with anywhere from 6 gigabytes of RAM all the way up to 8 or even 12 gigabytes of virtual RAM. So it's really interesting to see what the budget market or mid-range market is putting out there for phones. I think it's great to see companies like Motorola, Lenovo, all these other budget companies that are putting out decent phones that run solid and run decent. Blue, bold like us, they make a lot of budget smartphones and mid-range level type phones, which are good. Now, there are going to be some giveaways when you go down to, say, from the flagship level smartphones. What you're going to get from Samsung and, Apple is longevity when it comes to software updates. A lot of times, if you don't want to go with, say, a budget smartphone from Walmart or Target or Best Buy, you can always go with an old flagship from 4 or 5 years ago. You can go with an Apple smartphone from 2 or 3 years ago, something like the iPhone SE third generation or even the iPhone SE second generation, which is still being updated even 4 or 5 years later, 6 years later actually. So a lot of these phones still getting updates from Apple or even Samsung. Samsung's now doing 7 years of updates on some of their mid-range phones like the A16 5G and those types of devices that you wouldn't normally see happening on Samsung's side. Usually 2 years of software updates. That's why a lot of people try to stay with flagship smartphones, because you will get longer software updates. Something like an iPhone, you could get almost 10 years of software updates. Most of the time it's around 7 years. And Samsung right around 5 to 6 years, sometimes pushing 7 years on some of their older devices. So it's always a good idea to look at some of the older, flagship smartphones, because a lot of those will still run better than most of the mid-range phones we see. But mid-range smartphones have come a long ways. The only downer for a mid-range phone or low-budget end phones is they only have 1 year of software updates. So say take something like a Moto G phone. You might have bought it. You may get 2 years of software updates and 2 years of security updates. A lot of times it's 3 years of security updates and 2 years of software updates. So if you're looking for a solid smartphone, I always say look into the budget side first, because you're going to save more money on the budget side when it comes to buying a smartphone. Now, a lot of these budget smartphones are going to come with mediocre cameras. They're going to have decent overall picture quality with perfect sunlight. But if you're in dark environments, you might not notice the best picture quality when it comes to a smartphone that's in the, say, $100 to $200 price tag. I always say do your research on some of the budget level smartphones. Right now, one of the phones I'm looking to review is a iPhone 16e, which has one main camera, but it's using Apple's AI technology to do the photos and the rendering. I think that's great, and I think what Apple's doing with that phone is you can find it on a lot of carriers, especially in the prepaid market, for anywheres around, right now I think you can get it for $399 for a 256 gig to 128 gig for $199. The other thing is, purchasing a prepaid smartphone, you also have to take in instances that phones in this category aren't going to have the fastest processors. So in order for companies like that, they're going to also add refresh rates, like I said at the beginning of this video. Refresh rates are going to be anything like, anywhere from 90 hertz refresh rates all the way up to 120 hertz refresh rates. So in order to make up for the lack of processing power, they're going to increase the frame rates, so it makes the phone seem faster. A lot of the newer budget smartphones coming out are coming now with fast charging. So you may get anywhere from, say, 15 watt fast charging all the way up to 25 watt fast charging with companies like Samsung. We did check out our video review on the Samsung Galaxy A15 and A16 5Gs, and those phones right there are coming in with at least 25 watt fast charging, which is actually pretty good. Some companies on the budget side are also giving us wireless charging, like Motorola's Moto G series, like the Moto G 5G, the Moto G. I'm trying to think of the other one that has it. It's the Moto G Power 5G. The standard Moto G doesn't have it. It's the Moto G Power and Moto G Stylus that have the wireless charging, so you can use a wireless charging pad. It's not going to have the fastest charging speeds, but the fact that the phone has wireless charging at around $150 to $200, that's a big deal. People want phones with good battery life. That's one of the biggest things with buying a smartphone. You want all-day battery life. Some of these smartphones on the budget side have battery life that can last 2 days, up to 2 days. So you're getting, a lot of times you're getting a 5,000 milliamp hour battery or more. And some of them have 6,000 milliamp hour batteries, or pushing close to 6,000 milliamp hours. So The fact that you can get 2 days of battery life also beats most flagship smartphones. Another problem with purchasing purchasing something like a prepaid smartphone through carriers is that it's not so much the lack of updates, but the lack of performance. And the fact is, over time, a lot of these phones, the software updates run out, and then the phones slow down. Now, a lot of the newer phones coming out aren't as bad as they used to be. You could use these phones for up to 3 or 4 years, and they're still going to run fairly well. A lot of these phones will give you a bonus, though. They'll give you expandable storage, which you don't find on most iPhones. You don't find on most Samsung higher-end phones like the S25 and S25 Ultra. You will get expandable storage thanks to micro SD card support. You can expand it up to 2 terabytes. Some phones up to 512, which is perfect. A lot of times, that's what I'd rather do. I don't really care so much about camera performance as long as the phone is able to run most tasks normal. The other thing is people want a phone that can game. A lot of people like to game on their smartphones. You see that here in 2025. A lot of people want to game on their phone, so they want a phone that's reliable. And thanks to the higher end refresh rates, that makes it so you can play more heavy, intense games on lower end hardware. You can play Call of Duty Mobile now on most phones under $100, no problem. So these can be also used as great media devices as well. Getting down to the lower end of smartphones, we're talking more under $100. There's plenty of them, like the HMD Vibe, which I did check out that video. That video is doing pretty well. HMD Vive is only a $30 smartphone, and you're getting a 13 megapixel camera, an 8 megapixel front-facing camera, a 6.5-inch display, 720p, but you're also getting a Snapdragon 680 chipset, which is really good. No 5G, but it's still a really solid phone and a solid buy. Some of the prepaid phones are going to come with some issues, though. A lot of them don't have the fastest unlock speeds. So say you want to use your phone for, maybe making payments, like using Android Pay, Google Pay. A lot of these phones under